So we're going to step back a little bit, and I'm going to go back to this search of ProQuest and say, well, so this has got really great results. We find this a lot more useful. What can we do if we are not affiliated with an institution to use these databases? Very important to know that these databases they're limited. They're limited to people who are affiliated with an institution. One thing that I can say, though, is that a lot of universities, especially public universities, write contracts. When they have contracts with vendors, they will usually indicate that the contract will indicate that people who just walk into the library, they've got no affiliation, they can walk into the library and they can use these databases. It's very important for us at Cornell. You may think that Cornell is a private university, but actually it's a both private and a public university. It's a land-grant university of the state of New York, and it matters to us that we make these resources available to all of our to people in the state of New York. And I mean, it is a little bit different. Like if you try to go, I've never tried this. If you try to visit the Columbia University Library, my understanding is you have to show a card before you walk in. I mean, it's in the center of Manhattan. You know, we're up here way away from anywhere else. We're not, you know, we're desperate for people to come into our library, right? But my point is that the best thing you can do if you are not affiliated with an institution is to say, hey, can I use the databases at your big university institution? And you should go into that. And then what I would like to encourage you to think is that you probably can. Now, of course, you need to ask, and you don't want to spend a couple hours driving somewhere only to discover that no, they won't let you do that. So a phone call or two would definitely be in order. But I think that more often than not, you will find that you can. And then you will be able to access a huge collection of these databases where you can get to the full text of the article that's of interest to you. Here's one. This is about a Baltimore schooner that was cut through by the ice today or something like that. These are you can find lots of great stuff in these newspapers. And what I want to say is that you can use a lot of academic institutions, even if you have no affiliation with them. Of course, your large public libraries will also have big collections that you can access as well. The New York Public Library is considered one of the great research libraries of the country, similar to big university libraries like Cornell or Columbia or universities, you know, the Research One universities in any state across the country. And it's a public library, but it has a similar collection of resources. Not all public libraries, no other public libraries are going to have as much as the New York Public Library has, but lots of big city libraries will have a lot of these collections, and you can and should use them. Now, if you are in a small institution or near a small institution that doesn't have a lot of resources, or you call a couple of places and like, no, we won't let people who are walking in to have access to these resources, you're not completely out of luck. And I just did a webinar last week about this, and I spent a lot of that explaining the whole system in the background, and I don't have time to do that today. But what I want to say is that there is this thing that exists called discovery layers. Every major research library and every small library and lots of public libraries as well have them. You can go to I'm just going to go to library.osu.edu. I don't even know if it's library. It might, oh, it is. Okay. And I totally pulled that one completely at random. They'll all have this search box on the homepage. And you can do all kinds of searching here. You usually cannot get to the content, but you can do some searching here. So I'm going to do that Schooner Mary Anna search here. And I'm just using Ohio State. I don't know what they're going to come up with. And this is not the recommendation that I have in the library catalog, but I want to show you what you can do here. So go to Articles Plus. Well, we're not finding much here, and so I wouldn't use this. There's a lot of changes that I would make here. This is only academic journals. There are two major collections of discovery layers, and one's from ProQuest and one's from EBSCO. And their full text content. They're basically like Google 4 libraries. They take all of the content that is available in these subscription databases, which, by the way, Google cannot access because you have to log in to get to them. They take all that content and they put it into this box, and then they search it, and you can do a search there. But because you have to have licenses and contracts to access this content, ProQuest, which is one of the companies, will not allow EBSCO, the other company, to put the ProQuest content in the EBSCO discovery layer. And EBSCO won't allow ProQuest to put the EBSCO content in the ProQuest discovery layer. Since ProQuest has got the best historic newspapers, it makes sense to use the ProQuest discovery layer. And then each library does their own shifting. They do different things. There's sometimes you can do stuff and sometimes you cannot do stuff. But I just want to summarize this by saying what I have found is that Yale University Library has got an excellent interface to allow access to these resources. Well, that's not quite the right word. I want to reiterate, you will not be able to get to the full content of the collection. You'll not get to the full article, but you will know that the article exists. Yale just has each library can choose what they're gonna put into their discovery layer and what they're going to make visible. And I went through and I looked at a whole bunch of different ones, and I just found that Yale has the best collection and the best results. And it's easiest here to find. I did that Schooner Mariana result. I found a ton of results of books. We're not interested in books. This isn't really relevant to us. But if we scroll down, we can go to newspapers. I believe it's down at the bottom. Let's see where did it, journals and magazine articles, journal and newspaper titles. That's really not what we're looking for. I think I have to, these things do, oh, there we go, journal and magazine articles. And usually they don't include newspaper articles. So here I selected include newspaper articles, and that's like 29,000 results now. I've got some of these are journal articles, and I might get rid of those because I'm not really looking for journals right now. I'm more interested in newspapers. So Schooner Anna, I could probably do some continued searching here and put in Mariana in quotes so that I get, it's like, here's the article that I had seen in that database. Now, quick look is not going to work. This is not going to work. They're going to ask me to log in. I have no way of logging into Yale's collection. However, the point I want to make is that this can be a good way of finding out that an interesting article exists. If you have an ancestor with an unusual last name or a couple of different, maybe a somewhat unusual name and an unusual city or something like that, that you could narrow down, you can find content this way and discover that an article exists. It's not ideal. I know it's not ideal because you can't get to this content, and people are understandably, they're understandably frustrated by that. But in this case, Yale University is paying a lot of money so that their students, faculty, and staff can access this content. And what I think is interesting is that we can do some of this searching without actually paying any of that, paying to find out if it exists.